On projects, by definition, you work with limited resources, being either time, people, or budget. For this reason, projects are a natural source of conflicts. You will have them all the time because you are competing for scarce resources. As a project manager, it is your role to resolve the conflicts within the project.
I would say upfront conflicts healthy for a project. All projects should subject itself to a degree of conflict because thinking through different ways of working, different approaches, diversity of thinking gets you to a better output. And you also need to really test your project plans, check they stand up to scrutiny.
There are situations where you might be competing for the same resources against another project. So how do you resolve those inter-project conflicts? As a project manager, you might not have the power. The answer is fairly simple. I think you need to have something on top, an overarching body, and it could be a project management office or it could be a steering group. But the key there is to have the right people involved, those who have a vision on where the company is going, or those who have set the strategy. And those are the ones who can make the right decisions on what takes priority.
Sources of conflict that a project manager might face include things like conflicting priorities and expectations of what a project will deliver. It will include people needing to deliver the project versus the day job, so how you ring-fence those resources. Working with suppliers can be a source of conflict that needs managing. And I guess the thorny issue of budgets also can be quite tricky in a project.
Typically, I will say the most frequent source of conflicts is around resources, meaning people. So you have a limited set of resources. How do you assign those resources to projects? You need to balance on what you have versus what you need in terms of projects, and the driver normally is the benefits. So what projects are bringing the most benefits, and that's how you should prioritize the resource allocation on the portfolio.
But once we get into project delivery, if we have conflicting requirements, for example, project manager needs to be really clear that they're documenting what the original scope and objectives of the project were, checking whether that still meets today's need or whether that needs to be changed in light of new requirements, and running a change control process if that's the case. In terms of suppliers, working for the RSPB, I did a big database project, and from that I learned really important to set out super clearly what respective roles and responsibilities are for the supplier versus the client, the RSPB in this case. And it was also about being a good client, so not asking our supplier to do things really quickly, last minute, in quite undefined ways, spelling out what was needed with enough lead time to stop throwing in changes on that supplier, and just making sure there were really clear and shared goals around what we were trying to achieve.
For example, in my company, we have set up a project manager office, which I run. And the objective of the project manager office, it's really a couple of things. Make sure that the conflicts emerge, and most importantly, make sure that those conflicts are resolved. You need to gather all the relevant information across all the portfolio projects and form some possible options on how you will resolve those conflicts, and then make sure the right stakeholders can review that and make the right decision